right, I've got 13 minutes after the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If anyone joins in after we get started, we let them in then. And like I said before, we can let everyone view the recordings when we send out the message after this session. So thank each and every one of you for being patient with us. Thank you to the August session of the vendor information session. We've got a lot of good information that we're going to pass on to you today for the information that we know at this time. Once we find out more information, we will definitely let each and every one of you know as soon as we find out and we're allowed to release it. So I will go ahead and get started here. That way we can get our briefing underway. We're going to go over a few Army Ignited program reminders. Mrs. Sweeney is going to talk about the Army Ignited 2.0 update that we're going through right now. We're going to have plenty of time for Q&A for each and every one of you, and then we'll recap at the end. So we're going to start out with account updates. We're not making any system updates to the applications or vendor accounts or anything until the 2.0 system is finished upgrading. Uh, Please make sure you put your mics on mute as you come in. All right. Roles request, same thing. Once the 2.0 upgrade has been released, we will allow vendors who need to update their roles or add new individuals go ahead and do that at that time. There's going to be no new approved vendor accounts until the 2.0 launch. Also, there's going to be a new MOA possibly hitting the street here soon. It will more than likely affect the newer vendors versus you. But just to let you know, that may be hitting the street soon once everything launches. And the new Army Ignited 2.0 upgrade is going to give a new feel and process to everything that you guys do in Army Ignited. And Mrs. Sweeney is going to go over some of that with you today to tell you some of the things that you're going to be able to do in the new system and give you a brief overview of the Army Ignited 2.0 upgrade. As far as certificates of completion, we are working those every single day. We're closing out all of the ones from FY21 right now. But if you have a soldier who has attended with you in FY21 or FY22, please make sure you've submitted their certificate of completion. That way, excuse me, we can make sure that it's up there and we can get it closed out. Remember, this is required by the vendors to update at this time. So this is part of your MOA requirement.
Hey, Russell.
Yeah, but
I think I know why they're not all in. The invite shows 13:30.
are you serious?
Yes.
I thought I had it at 1300 to 1430. That could be why you guys are alone. So how you want to roll it? I tell you what, we'll go ahead and brief these guys, and then if others come in toward the 1330 time frame, we'll go ahead and get them squared away as well. That way, we're not holding these guys longer. Are you okay with that?
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, cool. We'll keep rolling. Sorry about that, everyone, but thank each and every one of you for jumping in with us. Going back to certificates of completion, remember this is a vendor responsibility that was outlined in the MOA, unless you're a vendor like Pearson VUE or CompTIA, they have different processes. But if you have certificates of completions for soldiers who have not that has not been turned in yet, please get those into us ASAP. Like I said, we're going through every single day, clearing out as many as we can in the day to try to get all of these done before the upgrade completely grabs everything and pulls it over to the new side. So you could help us out a lot by getting those put into the system. Course payments and start dates. The CA team is working just as hard on the other side for pushing the soldier requests that were submitted before 31 July, getting those over to the team for finance. You will find that some of those may not get there until the day the course starts. If you have a soldier that has not been paid for and you do not allow a waiver time frame from when the start class starts and they can't attend, advise them that they may need to withdraw from that course. And once the release comes out for FY23, allow them to go in there and select then to take the course. Make sure you're also not allowing soldiers to begin a course prior to payment. If you have not heard from our finance team and they have not made a payment with you, do not allow that soldier to start. That's a violation of the MOA, and it could leave the soldier having to pay that money out of pocket. Here's an example of the certificate of completion that we've sent out. If you all need it again, I'll make sure it's included in the email traffic when we send it out. Just make sure the information in there is identified. We've even had vendors who, down in this section where it says completed failed, they scratch through it and they put non-completion for those who never showed up. So either way, so you can use this, or if you have your own version, just make sure that it meets all these parameters and send it in to us. Okay, so I'm going to switch you over to our program manager, Mrs. Sweeney. She's going to give you some information about the upgrade that we're going through right now. And with that, I will turn it over to Sophia.
We have about 10 minutes before everyone is supposed to join in. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and address certain parts so that I don't have to repeat myself on some of this, but just to kind of talk about what we're doing currently. And I know Russell mentioned us having to, we're still processing all these cases, and just want to let you all know we still have about a little over 5,000 cases, or a little under 5,000 cases that we're processing. When I say processing, that's the CA team, making sure everyone's got everything they need, and then moving it to finance. Currently, finance is, also they're trying their best to keep up, but it is actually like, they are kind of having a struggle with getting through to some vendors or keeping up because there's only a few of them. So we're doing our best to, push as many CA cases their way as possible. We're working on cases with start dates of 29 August right now. So I know some have asked questions like, hey, I got students asking me, their cases are in the queue. I haven't seen them. If they're after the 20, I would say 28th, because there's still a lot of 29th still left in the queue, then just know that, we hopefully will get to those within the next day or two. Should be through them, should be through to the 31st, maybe the 1st of September, hopefully by tomorrow or shortly after. So really do appreciate your patience as we're trying to get through all of these cases. And some of those days, we received like hundreds of cases. And so our CA team can process around 50 cases a day. And there's hundreds for just one specific, for a certain day. So it is taking a little bit more time to get through all of those. Okay, there's still a bunch of people coming in. Okay. So what I've talked about so far with just the current cases, do you guys have any questions? I want to just open it up real quick. You can come up on the net if you'd like. No questions about the current? No. You have a question, Juan?
No.
Okay.
Are many of you still seeing where you're having a lot of soldiers still coming to you asking for information? And so they can set up their CA requests. Are any of you still seeing that in your companies right now, even though everything kind of ceased a little bit after the 31st of July? Feel free at any time to come up on the net if you'd like.
Okay. Shelley asks, Sophia, as we migrate to 2.0, will the payment still be made with the phone call? Yes. With a phone call, it's still going to be processed the same way with credit cards, not going to be, within the system. So yes, it will be phone call / email or email, whichever one. They normally send out emails, but if they don't hear back, they will call. Yeah. I know there's a lot of soldier traffic right now because everyone is, anxious to get started. And I feel so bad because I'm answering all these snow tickets like, oh, we're almost there. We're almost there. I'm sorry. Please hold. We're currently on the 29th or the 28th, whichever one. Any other questions right now? Oh, most questions about when, yeah. Yep, and as far as FY23 goes, we still don't have a date. As much as I wish I could tell you what the date was for that, we don't have that locked in yet. Hopefully soon, but not at this time. So I tell you what, Russell, I think we should pause for the next 5 minutes just to, and again, we can answer any questions about anything that's currently happening. But I see that they're starting to come back in, or starting to come in.
Copy that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll stand by for 5 minutes. So if you have Q&A, if you want to ask, or something's up on your mind about the current system, or anything that's going on there, please feel free to come up on the net and ask your questions. And for those of you who may have just joined us just a few minutes ago, I apologize. When I sent out the invite request, I guess I set it for 13:30 for you guys, but I thought I set it for 1300, so that's my fault. I apologize on that, but we're going to hold tight a little bit here just to make sure that we get everyone that's waiting in the lobby. They can go ahead and come in, and then we will proceed from there. So, again, we're going to take about 4 more minutes here, let them continue to come in. If you need to grab yourself a cup of coffee or something, please do so at this time, and we'll be back up in the net in just a few moments.
Bill, yes, that's so Russell's going to go over the certificate of completion queue, but he is working all of those right now. So there are still pending, but you're good to go if you uploaded what you needed to in there.
Absolutely. I've got just over 6,000 sitting in there that I'm going through each day. I'm taking care of everything in FY21 right now. So if you have items that are FY22, I will get to those. But biggest priority right now is getting all of the FY21s cleared out, and then we can proceed from there with the newer ones. All right, Sophia, I've got 13:30 on your time frame. You want me to go ahead and start running, and I'll give a back brief for all those that just joined us. Just a quick recap on everything we talked about so far.
Yep, if you wanted to just hold like 2 more minutes. Start.
Thanks to everyone that just joined us. We're going to give it just another minute or so here. We had an issue with the time frame. I sent out the wrong meeting time at first, so that's my fault. I apologize. But I want to give enough time for everybody to get in here because there's a lot of good information that we're going to go over. Then I'll give you a brief recap on everything that we talked about earlier, and then we'll get into the good information that all of you are here to find out from Mrs. Sweeney. So just sit tight with us for just a little bit, and we'll be back up and running here in just a few minutes. Thanks everybody for your time, and I apologize for the delay. All right, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us today. I apologize for the delays in time and everything, but I hope that the information that we're able to give you today will kind of rest you a little bit and give you at least a way ahead on where we're heading. If you haven't had the chance to yet, please make sure you mute your microphone and remember that this training is being recorded. I will provide the recordings to everyone as soon as we are done with the last session here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and give you a little back brief on the items we talked about just a little bit earlier. We're going to go over a few program reminders. Mrs. Sweeney is going to talk to you about the Army Ignited 2.0 update and upgrade, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. At any time during the session, if you feel you'd like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand or put your message in the chat box. All right, so account updates. We're making no account updates until the upgrade to 2.0 has been completed. It's the same for roles request. There may be a new MOA being sent out that's going to affect more of new vendors coming on board than it will affect you. But if you are an approved vendor in Army Ignited, the current plan is that all of your information, as far as your contact information, everything should transfer over smoothly. Mrs. Sweeney will talk to you in just a minute about your information on your application as far as your courses and or exams. For the certificates of completion, remember this is a requirement for the vendors to upload those course completions. If you, and now it's going to be referred to as grades, and we'll go over that more as we progress. A lot of the verbiage is going to change. We're working on closing out FY21 right now. So if you have anyone who had results posted in FY21, please make sure you upload those as well as 22, because as soon as we get done with the 21s, we will transition over and start the 22s. Course payment and start dates. The CA team is working to push the last of the FY 2022 cases to finance. This is everyone that submitted a CAR up to the 31st of July. So there are quite a few individuals that submitted their information over there, and our team is pushing that as quickly as we can to get that squared away and get those paid. If you have soldiers who have start dates and you haven't been paid by their start date, please do not allow them to proceed. Payments, like I said, can come all the way up to the start date or maybe a little bit behind. But if you have a hard start date, just advise the soldier to submit a withdrawal. And then once the FY23 dates and information becomes available, they can resubmit there. And again, this is an example of the certificate of completion. If you already have your own version, that's absolutely fine. If you like to use this one, and we even have individuals who have crossed this out and marked it as non-completion, go ahead and submit those in the members' records. That way, as we're going through and we're clearing everything out, we can get those cases closed quickly. All right, so for the upgrade to Army 2.0, Army Ignited 2.0, I'm going to allow the floor to Mrs. Sweeney. She's going to give you all some great information and we're going to push through. Sophia, over to you.
Hey, thank you. Hi, everyone. Again, for many of you that are on already. Thank you so much for attending today's session. Next slide, please. Just gonna hit some highlights and then we'll do lots of discussing if necessary. Can you switch to the next slide? Awesome, thank you. So I know Russell touched on this, but we are processing the current CA requests for 1.0. We are actually on 29 August right now. The team is struggling and working overtime to get these cases pushed over to finance. The goal is, and it will happen, to have all cases processed and paid prior to 30 September. Okay. So that is that's what they're currently doing. Finance is making the payments, some by start date, some a little after. We apologize. Sometimes it takes a little longer for them to get to those cases. They are also trying their hardest to get through as many as possible. So what they do is they make 3 attempts to contact you. Okay, so if they send an email and they get no response, then they'll try again, either email or phone, and then they'll try again. On the 3rd time, if they can't get a hold of you, they will reject the case. And that is what they'll let the soldier know, that they could not reach you, the vendor, to make the payment. And that's actually found, like the finance actually gets their phone number from the account, right? So if your application has, you know, certain numbers like a 1-800 number to a, I don't know, your business office, whatever, that's what they're going to call for finance. So if you needed to make those changes, please just make them in your application, email us and tell us, hey, we just changed the number to the finance POC. No changes need to be made to your applications because obviously no soldier can request anything in there. But as far as the phone number for finance, if you have a better number, that would be great to update that and let us know. Just email us because like Russell said, we're not processing anymore, but any more applications, but something like that that can, you know, help finance get, you know, paid quick or get through quicker, that would be great. Okay. Okay, so then you see the certificates of completion. I guess we have some people still stuck getting a bunch of emails saying the URL was truncated. Okay. Okay, perfect. Some of them are coming in. Certificates of completion, yes, currently in this system 1.0, it is your responsibility to get those certificates of completion in there. Now, if you only sold you know, you might have sold the CompTIA or some type of Pearson VUE or other exam that you don't receive the results in, that's different. That's the soldier's responsibility. But if you do have you know, some certificates of completion that have not been uploaded, you can see this in your queue. If they're, you know, some are just pending review, that's a good thing. That means you've done your part. We just have to get and complete ours, okay? But if it hasn't been like, you know, if it hasn't been uploaded, we ask that you hurry because, okay. So Nicole said she tried to submit some, but they didn't have an area for me to submit. Okay. So in that case, you know, if it would maybe, I don't know if it was already rejected or not, but if it was rejected, you can just send it through a snow ticket and let us know who the soldier is so that we can fix that account. Okay. So that would be the best thing is sending it through snow to get fixed.
And if you happen to know where the soldier's stationed, that helps as well because we have a lot of common names and it would be tough to find them. So if you happen to know what installation they're at, please let us know.
Any details you can provide, that would be good. Okay, looks like it's working now. Wasn't giving, okay. Well, it might have been because the system was moving really slow and everyone was having issues getting in. So, you know, I hate to, you know, I hate to say that, but sometimes you might have to try a couple of times to get it to work. Okay. So moving on, I did want to address the finance payments being late. If
Sophia, we can't hear you.
somebody muted me, thanks. Sorry. Regarding the Yvette, if you don't see anything, you may want to drop off and come back in. I mean, you all see the slides, right? Does anybody not see the slides? Can you see the slides, Russell? Oh, okay. All right, she must have dropped them.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so if you have a hard start date, right? You cannot you can't take the payment after that hard start date. If you have a start date that's like, you know, before 30 September and that soldier wants to change the date and they have the ability to, you know, they're not ETSing right away or getting out of the Army right away, you can ask the soldier to submit a snow ticket to request a change in that start date. Now, they can request a change of the start date if they, all right, somebody needs to mute. Don't mute me. if they have a, maybe that start date is, the only start date would be after the new fiscal year, which is after October 1st. In that case, you can ask them to extend their end date, okay? They would just need to extend their end date so that they can still continue to use these funds, because it wasn't necessarily, their fault for, not being able to attend because you didn't get paid right away. Okay, so I'm hoping you can pass that on. We had that issue a couple of times already, so I just want to make sure everyone understands that, we can extend that if need be. All right. So we are still waiting on a lot of information, right, about 2.0, the upgrade. But there are some things we do know right now that I can let you know about. So lots of verbiage change, right? So where we used to call, you need to upload your certificate of completion, it's now going to be pass fail, right? So you will have the ability to hit pass or fail when that SOTR's end date is, it's passed, right? So here is going to be a change that, we're going to eventually get to. We're going to eventually get a queue for you all like we do now. But unfortunately, when we start in 2.0, it's just basically the basis, right? The basic, we're getting in the system, getting it moved, or, getting things to work. We still have lots of upgrades to make. So eventually, we're hoping to get you a queue so you can see them as soon as we process them, just like you do now. 2.0 is going to allow you to upgrade the grade, but you will not see them until, finance contacts you to make the payment, right? Then you'll know, like, oh, geez, I got a SOTR, and I'm sorry, unfortunately, it's going to be like that for a little while. We are requiring them to still, they still have to contact you to request a quote, a custom quote. And at that time, it's the same thing. They have to, ask for the quote, register without any funds down. That way you're set. And unfortunately, you'll have to track them that way until finance makes the payment for them. Okay. Sorry, I know that's not something you want to hear, but there's some other good stuff that you will like about 2.0. All right, so verbiage changed. It's no longer certificate of completion. It's going to be pass fail grade. And you'll have the ability to do that in the 2.0. So all of you that are already approved you're already approved vendors, you're not going to have to, re-enter all your information and all that stuff, but you will have to re-enter all of your courses again. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to get transferred over like we had hoped, but there were some changes anyways, so it was going to be inevitable that you would have to re-enter your courses and exams, okay? So just so I can go through this, currently you all bundle, some of you bundle, right? Some of you have bundles, and that's great. You include a free exam, free items, but now you will have to, there's not going to be any itemization, okay? So if those items are free, that's, you absolutely can give those. We can't tell you how you can do that part, but if it's something that was included in the cost of your training, it has to be separated. The exam or the books have to be separated. So for some vendors, I know you have, like, we asked you to itemize and add all items that were mandatory for the course, right? So some of you would say, okay, example, PMP course, right? This PMP course, you need the PMBOK book, 6th edition, 7th edition, whatever, right? And some materials. Some of you put it as, PMP course, $200, book, $50, materials, $50. Of course, that's not really realistic, but anyways, now you will have to itemize, like, separate those, and you'd have to say, I'm going to enter a PMP training, and the cost for that is $200. Those books and materials are going to have to be entered separately. So they will not be in the same CA request. If they have a cost, and they have, if they have a cost, they have to be itemized separately, okay? But again, if you have free items that you give away, that is absolutely, you know, your prerogative. CSC question. Just to confirm, if we have a course and 3 items with cost, 2 books and uniform, we have to submit 4 quotes. Course, book, yes. Yes, Diane, you do have to. Thank you. We have courses that are bundled, which include course and a voucher for certification. Well, if you just give those vouchers to them, not part of the cost of the training, then you that's up to you. But if you have like you know, a cost that you moved into your training, total training cost, you have to separate that exam out of it. Does that help you one? Okay, perfect. And then Colin said, we have notes and recordings included in our course at no cost. Do we have to list them as itemized? So the answer is no, you don't. You don't have to itemize those if they're not even part of the total cost. Originally, it started off that way in 1.0, but now you just, you know, you just list the name of the actual course, and Russell put an example in there, CompTIA A+, 2500, right? And then if there's no books or, you know, okay, perfect. If there's if you need to separate the cost for something else, you can do that in a separate item, separate request or item for your application. All right, so our courses require a certifying exam at the end by another entity for $98 that we cannot pay for student. Oh boy, they're coming in. So we cannot pay for student. Would that be listed separately so a student knows there's another fee? Yes, Joanne, if that fee goes to, does that fee go to, I guess, to a different vendor, or is it just go to you, but just has to be separated? And Samantha, the total cost of 25 and it includes the books and voucher. We don't not have to itemize the answers. No, you don't have to. If that's something you give away for free, you don't have to itemize it. But if you do, if you did factor in that into your cost, you have to separate it. So Tech Sherpas, they have to be itemized, but they can be on the same quote. For instance, an IT training course plus an exam voucher. If you have listed a IT training, that has to be one quote. If it is actually, if you have like, let me see, any other items that go with it, if that exam voucher is free, it doesn't need to be itemized, right? That's something you're giving away, not something that needs to be itemized on the entry that you put in 2.0, okay? So remember, at this point, after we leave 1.0 and go into 2.0, we don't need itemization, right? That you don't have to itemize things if they're free items. If they're separated, you must enter that additional item, those books or materials or that voucher separately out. So you can only enter one training or an exam. That's 2 different entries. Does that make sense? And okay, yes, just like Russell said, all the quotes have to match what is on the application. So if you listed CompTIA A+, right? You said A+ at 2,500. The quote needs to say CompTIA A+, 2,500. I hope it's not that much. Just kidding. Okay, it goes to a different, okay, Joanne said it goes to a different entity that is not a vendor. Okay, so in that case, Joanne, that vendor has to sign on at NREMT. Yeah, they have to become a vendor in order for it to be funded. And Roxanne asked, so itemized tuition as one cost and books as separate costs equal the total cost of the course. If that is how you, yes, if you included it as a bundle, you included the total cost of the exam, and you know, then you have to separate those items. But if those are free items, if you just give free books and free exam, that's on you. We're just saying that in here you have to not bundle, okay? And then Colin says, so if we have an FE civil course, okay, if we have a FE civil course that is 1,090 and has a book valued at 160 included at no cost, should we list them separately? If it is included, then it's considered, you know, if you don't charge any cost for it, then it doesn't need to be entered. That's just a, you know, that's just a free item, right? Is that what you're saying? Colin, if you're able to get on, come online, that would be great. You'd, okay, if it is free, it doesn't really, it's valued at, but it's not something, that's just something you give away, then you're only gonna list the FE civil course at $1,090, right? We doesn't, whatever you get for free, that we're not gonna add it onto into the system, okay? If that $100.60, if that $160 was part of that 1,090, then you need to separate it. But if it wasn't, if it's truly just that, and everybody else outside of Army Ignited pays $1,090 and they get a free book, then it's, you know, then that's you only
Can I
have to
jump in
enter
here,
it.
Sophia?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, and just I see the some may be a little confused on this, especially when we're saying free. When you were doing your applications now, when you were itemizing, you would put the total cost at the top, and then everything listed below it was listed at $0.00. We understand those items are not free, quote unquote, but what Sophia is saying is if in that $2,500 that you've listed for the course, if that comes with a book, it comes with study materials, it comes with exam voucher, it comes with a free retest, all that good stuff, then that is what she's talking about free. So everything that's included within that bundle, then it would be $2,500. Now, if you said, "Hey, I have all of that, but in order to complete the course, the soldier will have to go buy a book from Amazon for $250 that's not included in this price," then that book you need to separate out and make it its own itemized item. And then when the soldier does a price quote, you need to provide them one for the total cost, and then you need to provide them one for that book separately. Does that help?
Yep, looks like it helped. They all say it's a great example. Thank
Copy
you.
that. No worries.
Sorry, I was trying to do it the best I could, but you did it better, so thank you. All right, so can you please move to the next slide? Okay, so the marketing. Currently, it is Army Ignited 2.0, but the URL will change. So if you are listing that on your websites soon, I will give you the URL to use. Again, if this goes, you know, if 2.0 goes live for tuition assistance, that has nothing to do with CA. We're still in 1.0 until we announce the new dates. So, you know, please don't change it to a different URL because you saw it on an article or anything like that, because that is not the case when it comes to CA, okay? Also, we're still seeing some websites that still show us as the COOL program. And I just want to remind you, we're not the COOL program. We're actually the Army CA program. Okay, I know some of the other services have COOL programs, but we are still the Army Credentialing Assistance Program. Okay. Installation access, that is actually still requested through SNO currently. In 2.0, it actually will allow you to be more specific as to where you're trying to, request access to. So if you have like, you want to go to Fort Hood, in 2.0, you'll be able to specify that you want to actually, submit an installation access request to Fort Hood. All right. Okay, and then let me see. All of the actual in progress cases that we have in Army Ignited 1.0 will eventually be moved and be active into 2.0. Okay. All the previous ones will be gone. If they were already closed out, you won't see those anymore. You're just going to see what is in progress, or actually you won't see, but in 2.0, it'll be just what is in progress, okay? So let me answer a couple questions. So Eileen says, I have a soldier with a start date of 30 September. Will his request still be got? Yes, we will have all cases completed by 30 September. I can't say funded by 30 September because I can't answer for finance, but they are hopefully going to be funded by then. Any conflict with showing, so Lauren, I'm not sure I understand. Any conflict with showing Army TA? Can you please explain? And then Phil, how accurate is the article that came out today mentioning CA 2.0 late November? I wish they wouldn't have said that because I don't think that is accurate. It's a possibility that it could be earlier or later, okay? So it's a possibility that those dates could be different, okay? And then can you explain installation access more specifically? Do we go to a site? So as far as installation access, if you wanted to, let's just say, brief your program or brief whatever you offered at a ed fair, or some other type of function that was taking place on an installation, you can't just go there to do that. You have to request approval to be able to do that from the ESO or the Education Services Officer on that installation. So that's what installation access is for. If you were going to teach a course on the installation, that's also installation access, but it also is a whole nother level of approvals that has to happen. So I just wanted to make sure, I do need to explain a couple of things about installation access as well. I know some vendors get approached by soldiers who request, some soldiers want you to give a class, right? They say, oh, well, our whole unit wants to do this. I need to make sure you understand you have to be very careful about that. Okay, if a soldier approaches you and you schedule, even if it's not on the installation, but they're asking for some type of unit training, that must be, handled through the ESO. Okay, you can't just make or agree to courses being provided, because a soldier asks you to. All right. So what I did tell everyone earlier is that if you have soldiers approaching you because they want to attend your class, understood. There's no issues with that. It's when you do something specific to that for that specific soldier in their unit, that's where there's an issue, and that's a legal issue, and it's a violation of the MOA. So some vendors will give like info sessions, right? They'll say, I'm going to have an info session on my whatever PMP training that I'm going to offer on these dates. please feel free to attend. A bunch of soldiers show up. You have scheduled dates, and it just so happens that Soldier 1 told the rest of their buddies, and they all submitted individual CA requests to attend one of those dates. That's okay, no issues with that. But when you start accepting, when you start making agreements with soldier chains of command, then that becomes an issue, okay? I hope I clarified that. I know I talked a lot about it, but just want to make sure, put it out there because we have had this issue with some vendors. Is there a way to where, hold on, go back to.
Yeah, we had one up here from Lorraine. She was asking about, is it okay if she still displays Army TA as Army tuition assistance?
Oh, are you, okay. Are you saying that, gosh, every time I try to look, it keeps moving me. Go back to what she said. So are you also offering TA courses? Sorry, I meant how we display the program name and marketing materials. Okay, so you're saying, okay, well, that's, TA is different. Whatever you got going on with them is totally fine. That's a separate program. You can, however you market and they allow, it's totally up to you. Just if you talk about CA, that's a different story because our URL will still remain the same as what it is until 2.0. Does that make sense, Lauren? Okay, and then, perfect. All right, so let me go back up here. Roxanne said, is there a way where vendors can check the status of a service member's request to ensure they can start the course on time? In 2.0, unfortunately, not. That is part of the way ahead, right? The way ahead is going to be, we want you to have a queue, just like you do now, so that you can see who is being, the status of a soldier's request. That's the goal. It just won't happen when 2.0 starts, okay? And then Ann Johnson said, historical CA data from 1.0 for soldiers will not be in 2.0. Historical, there might be some, but I'm not 100% sure of everything that will move over. So I hope, but I can't say that it all will be there. Okay, Phil said, will it still be 30 business days prior to the start? Thank you for asking that, but Phil. So again, another language change that we need to make is 30. We're no longer saying 30 business days. We're saying 45 days, which is 30 business days. But 2.0 will say 45 days for the start date. Okay. And then they can't request a start date more than 90 days out. Okay. So we had situations where soldiers were submitting CA requests, let's just say today, August, for next August of of the next year, right? So that won't happen any longer. They will only be able to submit a request between 45 days and 90 days from their submission date. So I hope that helps. And thank you for mentioning that because I almost forgot that. And so if a unit wants to do training with us, we tell them no, not necessarily what I'm saying. If you can't create a training specific for that one unit, okay, because that violates the installation access rule. So what you would have to do is if you had training sessions from specific dates. So let's just say you say, I'm going to give 1 week training, September 1st through the 7th, October 1st through the 7th, November 1st through the 7th. If you specify days and they all joined in those days, that's different. But if you're creating it specific for them, then it's a unit training. Does that make better sense, Cameron? Okay. Can you talk about what the soldier's process will be when searching, selecting, and applying for a certification and the funding, or is it still too early? No, I'm glad you asked that, Mark. So the process, when they do search, they will search by credential first, right? So you all will be entering whatever training you offer, right? You're going to select your credential, you're going to list the stuff that you offer, right? And then the SODR is going to be able to, when they go in and they select their credential, they're also going to see all the vendors that offer that credential. And they will be able to give ratings as well. So, so basically if, Mark's Weed Store offers training at $200 and, I don't know, Sporty's Pilot Shop offers that same training at $3,000, the SODR will be able to compare and see all of what they'll get for their money. And they're also able to rate their training sessions for others to see. Did that answer your question, Mark?
It does. I kind of have a follow-up with that too. Because we're in the Air Force Cool their site, and this sounds, because I know it's very similar, and I think it sounds just like it. I just kind of want to make sure that this is it. So I know for an airman that goes in, they type in whatever credential, it pops up the credential, and then it has vendors, and it lists all the vendors complete. Like, so for us, we only are doing the examination. So our training, the training or classes, whatever, doesn't show up, shows a 0. And then for all of our authorized training partners, those also show up as the vendor and only show training. Is that kind of what it's going to look like inside 2.0? Did that make sense? So like all of us are in this, when they type in the credential, and then all the vendors show up together. We'll show up as the only one offering the exam, and then everyone that provides training for that shows up also,
Yes, okay.
but with a 0 in the exam cost.
I see what you're saying. It will be a little different, but you're right. Everyone's going to show up, and I want to say it will show that these people are, offering training. These people are offering exam, or
Okay.
it should show on there. I'm almost positive.
Okay, good deal. I'll send you a screenshot of what ours looks like, and might be able to talk about it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so Cameron says, not really. So if we post new dates to help accommodate for that unit and still leave it open for anyone else to enroll CA or not, that is a no-go? No, so again, if you are doing something specific for a unit, that could be viewed as, an installation access type violation where you have to get approval, right? But if you are posting dates that you selected, you wanted to, whether it happens to accommodate SODRs, that's okay. So it happens to accommodate, but you selected those dates and only that unit shows up, but it was open to everybody, that's fine. You just couldn't have made it specific to that unit. Does that make sense, Cameron? Okay, so I'll wait on him to answer. All right, Phil says, will the platform change for them to enroll? Meaning, will they go through the same process in Ignited 2.0 they do in 1.0? PowerPoint presentation that shows soldiers how to execute on the Ignited page. Will that change? Yes, it will change. The look and the feel will be different, but our policy, for the most part, is keeping the same. There will be some changes. There will be some changes to the policy, but the actual platform will look differently when you see 2.0. Yes. No, ServiceNow is what, if you're currently in the system, right. So Russell just answered it. Basically, it's just basically in the system. It's like a help desk type of platform. The good thing is in 2.0, all of the we'll be able to have one specific area. You should be able to ask your questions in that area. All right. What does installation access have to do with an online class? It's not that it has anything to do with an online class, it's the fact that you're doing something specific for a unit. If something is done specifically for a unit and it did not get cleared through installation access, that could be a violation. Even if it's an online class, you created a course specifically for a unit without approval. That is what that is. So I thought the same thing, Cameron. I felt the same way. Is like, okay, so what? If I'm not doing an installation, what's the big deal, right? Yeah, until legal said, guess what? That's a big deal. The installation. So if you're doing something at Fort Hood, right, off the installation from Fort Hood, you would have to submit installation access for through that education services office or officer. Okay, so we'd be able to provide a new PowerPoint for the new look. Yes, Cameron, even if you never go to the base. And I'm telling you this because we just went through this with a couple other vendors who are doing the same thing, okay? So I'm letting you know because you don't want to be the one that gets the email and says, hey, we were told. Yeah, if exactly, Mark said it best. If this was a unit training, that is something the unit would have to pay, however they pay it.
Hey,
Right.
Sophia, we had one from Phil up a little bit. They all kind of shadowed down together. But he asked, will the platform change for them to enroll? Meaning, will they go through the same process in Army in Ignited 2.0 they do in 1.0? The PowerPoint presentation that shows soldiers how to execute on the Ignited page. Will that change?
Yes, that is going to change, and we will provide new PowerPoints, and all of that will be posted in Army Cool, right? So you'll have all of those type of, you know, that just like I have it now in Army Cool, all of those screenshots and step-by-step instructions, that will happen again for the new for 2.0. Okay, let's see. All right, so Anne asks, will vendors use the same web link to access CA soldiers that academic institutions use to access TA? It is going to be, yeah, I want to say yes, it's probably going to be the same thing, but you still got to go through a different process for CA. It won't be like you're already in there for TA and then you just get to move over to CA. It won't happen that way. However, since you're already an approved vendor, you will probably have your own account already. It's just a matter of getting you or continuing the process. As an example, if Ignited 2.0 opens 1 November, we should assume the earliest start date will be 15 December. Yes, Phil, if that's what, yeah, exactly. 45 days from, 1 November, if that's the date that's given. Okay. All right. So I think I answered pretty much everything. Do you all have any questions? You can either raise your hand and come up on the net, or you can still add your questions to the chat. Are there any how-to guides? Not yet, Joanne. Soon as we have like the, you know, everything is set, we will definitely have all of that. Vendors will receive training for 2.0. You will definitely get that training. There will be a grant. You will be in the system, or I'm sorry, the 2.0 before Soders will, or CA. Yes, I see a hand that's raised. Samantha?
So in the Ignited 1.0, I've submitted credentials and it got kicked back because of the itemization piece. And then they said don't update because we're switching to 2.0. So will I have to redo all of that, or will that transfer over and then I can just update it?
If you have an approved, you're an approved vendor currently?
It's still pending because of that itemization piece.
Okay, so you've never offered courses before,
Correct.
right? Okay, so yeah, you will have to go into the 2.0 and create your account.
Okay.
It won't be transferred over if you're still a pending vendor.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let me see. When will vendors be able to update their applications for 2.0? Never successfully update our cage code in 1.0. So we don't have a date yet, but as soon as we know, we'll let you know that you can go in there to, we'll give you everything step by step and all. Again, you're only going to list the title. So it's going to be a lot easier this time. As far as the cage code in 1.0, if there was some issues with that already, so I wouldn't worry about this one right now. Also, let me see, got the vendor update. All right, how different will 2.0 be in terms of navigation for us as an institution from 1.0? Will there be a walkthrough of how to get through it? Yes, we will definitely do training. And then there will also be step-by-step instructions for everything, right? So how to continue the process, how to enter, how to add a course, everything. We will definitely do all of that. Also, I want to make sure y'all remember that, and because I got asked that earlier today, counselors or ed centers don't have a part in this process when it comes to credentialing assistance, okay? It goes from the soldier to our office to finance for payment, okay? So I just want to make sure everyone understands, because I've got some questions on that before, and I just want to make sure you understand that. All right, we will continue to send the program list once a month with current, canceled, and new courses for Army Cool's website purposes. So I don't think I'm going to update the approved vendor list that's in the system of Army Cool. Okay, and the reason I say that is because it's going to change. And then I'm not sure how it's going to be, listed. We'll still have an approved vendor list. I think we're going to pull more information for Soders to see, like locations, that kind of stuff, but I can't say 100% how it'll look. But no, we're not going to, unless, again, if you have a change in like finance points of contact, please, that's something you definitely want to change in the system. Okay. And then if the price is changing for 2023 for our listed courses, when we'll be able to update the application and list pricing. More to follow on that, Tara.
I'm just being proactive because we won't have our pricing for probably another 5-6 weeks at the earliest, but.
Oh, I totally understand. I think that like, it's not going to be a difficult thing to do then.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, back to you, Russell.
Outstanding. Well, thank each and every one of you for joining us today. I'm going to give you 5 minutes of your time back here. And again, as soon as we get word of what the other things that are coming up, we will let each and every one of you know. Once it's time to do trainings, you'll see emails come out from me for keeping you informed as we send out. So make sure you're paying attention to those emails that come across. We'll be hosting another one of these as soon as we get more word that we're about to go live, so that you have the ability to see the process and understand what you need to do as vendors. Thank each and every one of you for joining us. Thanks for all that you do. Thank you for being patient. And we look forward to giving you some more information very soon. I'm going to stop the recording here. If you want to stay on and continue to ask questions, you're more than welcome to.